Welcome to the Maw and Disorder mini set review. I'm Blobby. I'll bring the Maw, chat brings the Disorder. I'm gonna go through this mini set, which releases tomorrow. Apparently, it snuck up on me. I learned this morning that it releases tomorrow. And it's funny, I feel like I just got a handle on the meta that is exiting, we assume. But I'll be glad to see it go. Something that I have realized is that I think I do better in metas with a lot of pings and like board control with like lots of different little rushes and death rattles, ways you can stick on the board. It's harder for me to wrap my head around metas like this one has been. Not a lot of pings, not a lot of sticky minions. Some landslides, where you like feel like you don't really know even how to oppose the force that's coming at you. We'll see what the vibe of this mini set is. I have not really looked at any of these cards yet. Starting out with the legendary here in the Demon Hunter class. Prosecutor Meltranix. Battlecry, your opponent can only play their left and rightmost cards on their next turn. It's a 4-mana 2/6 legendary demon. So we're getting more into hand manipulation, your opponent's hand. That's something that's been an increasing theme of recent sets. I don't mind it. I don't even terribly mind the forensic duster that everyone thought was such a problem at the beginning of this meta. It seems like people have quieted down about duster over time. It does super feel bad when you're got at the perfect curve and that card comes down, messes you up. At least with this card, there's still some flexibility with how you go about your turn. It could totally lock you out of a turn if you got big chunguses on either side of your hand, but you have essentially two options for what to play, and those options can lead to further options down the line in a turn. Obviously, in the late game, this gets a little bit worse as the opponent only has like 2 or 3 cards in hand. I think it's a really strong card, though. If it comes down on turn 4, it might really screw up their plans. 4-mana 2/6, decent stat line as well. For the power of that ability. I'm gonna say we got a 0 to 5 grading scale here. 0 is the absolute worst, 5 is the best. That means 2.5 is average. I don't know. I don't know. It's a good legendary, but it's not gonna really work for you every time. I'm gonna put this at like a 3.5. Feels relatively modest. Maybe you just get a little smaller. There. I get particular. Maybe a little bit modest, but the thing is, like, a lot of the time you're gonna play this card and it's just gonna be a 4-mana 2/6 if the opponent gets to do what they were planning on doing anyway. Up next. Sightless Magistrate. Both players draw until they have 5 cards. The 4-mana 5/4 common card for Demon Hunter. Is this good? What do you think about this? Both players draw until they have 5 cards. In the Demon Hunter archetype, a very common way that you're going to build your deck is to vomit stuff onto the board in early turns. So that's why Demon Hunter has so much card draw as refill. This is just another way to support that idea. You're a Demon Hunter, you're playing a Priest, you vomit out your hand, you play this on 4, might draw 2, 3 cards. Probably closer to 2. Opponent draws maybe 1. I don't know. I think that generally speaking, on balance, you're gonna be at a card deficit in Demon Hunters, so I think this is mostly pretty good. Like, if you're late in a draft and you haven't picked up other draw cards, but you find this, it could really plug that hole for you, so to speak. It's also good stats, 4 mana, 5/4. I really like that stat line. I will call it a 3. Above average. Is it better than that? Maybe. It could be like a killer card. But for now, I'm going to give it a modest 3 and wait and see. I think I will be drafting it a decent amount of the time. All Fel breaks loose. 5 mana Fel spell common. Summon summon a friendly demon that died this game. Infuse 3 demons, summon 3 instead. Now, I assume this means 3 demons have to die for this to get infused. Which, to be fair, if you're gonna get anything out of the infuse ability, you have to have had 3 demons die anyway. But to be unfair, those demons could have died before you got this into your hand. This is a constructed card, right? This does not seem like it has application for Arena. Maybe if you draft a deck and you get like, you know, like the 6/4 Death Rattle that summons 3/2s. If you get a couple of those, maybe some 1 or 2 other big demons, you could be like, okay, 5 mana to bring one of those back to life is somewhat worth it. It's just so situational that it would take a very special Demon Hunter deck for this to be playable. We're going to call it a 0.5 because I can see a fringe case where your deck aligns perfectly and you're like, I'm the demon champion. Not in this meta, really. There's not a lot of demons around, but in future metas. I'll give it that 0.5 because you might draft this at some point. But to be frank, it's gonna be like a dead card in drafts. And Demon Hunter already has a lot of those with all the crap relic stuff. Should be a Warlock card. Yeah, that could be interesting, like with the tap. That could be interesting, Stormwind. Yeah. Alright, that's Demon Hunter. I'm not gonna give like a letter grade evaluation to the different classes like I do with a full set review, because there's only 3. But as far as a verbal evaluation, that's what I say. Now, this is okay. This is okay. 1 essentially dead card, and 2 good cards? Certainly better than what Demon Hunter got in the expansion. Move on to Druid. Incarceration. I am incarcerated. 3 mana, rare spell. Choose a minion. It goes dormant for 3 turns. Ooh, interesting. Spend 3 mana to functionally super freeze something. It's like a 3 mana hard removal that is not permanent, but on the upside, you can hard remove without having to worry about Death Rattle and Reborn and stuff. 3 turns. It feels like a decent amount of time. Like, you know, these days arena games can go longer sometimes. This is perhaps delaying the inevitable. If you get rid of a threat, that threat is going to be a threat later on still. But it could give you time to stabilize. It could give you time to push damage and win. Druid can finally deal with big minions in arena. Remember Naturalize? That was an interesting one. I think this is good. I think this is good. Is it better than a hard removal? Sometimes, but usually no. I don't get why this is a Druid card. Should be Rogue. But Rogue has so many things that do this already. I don't know. Very similar to Sap. Similar to Sap, that's interesting. Like, not like removing something by delaying it. Except in this case, rather than mana being the factor, it's time. I like this. I think this is an interesting card. I would be curious to see how it plays. I've been pretty uncertain about my ratings so far. I want to call this a... I'm going to call this a 3 for now. I'll say it's above average. Tempted to put a 3.5 on there. Due process. What happens if I click on this? Is that better? I think it's better. Less blinding whiteness. That for me, of course. For the rest of the game, players draw an extra card at the start of their turn. Holy what? 2 mana, nature spell. That's both players, though. Hello, CJ. Good card, but not an arena card. Now, hear me out. What if you draft hyper-aggressive Druid? Every turn, you're dumping 2 drops and 1 drops on the board, drawing 2 cards at the start of your turn. Opponent is desperately removing stuff, overdrawing. I could see it. It's not a card that you're just gonna be able to plug into any given Druid deck that you're drafting. But if you get this early, or if you've drafted a hyper-aggressive deck, it could make sense, right? If you draft the, functionally, the Druid version of a Merps Hunter, where you're not taking anything above 5 mana, barely even taking 5 mana cards, just trying to flood. Now, does that mean this is 0.5, or... Because, you play this card, there's still problems with what I just said. Problem number A, you draft your deck around this card, and then you never draw it, and you just run out of cards on turn 5. Problem number B, you play this card, but your opponent gets the extra value from it first, right? So I'm going to actually be generous and call this a 0.5 rather than a 0, but it's another case where I do not think you're going to be touching this. Almost ever, if ever at all. Yeah, if you're playing a mage or a priest, and they're trying to have a deck that is controlling or generating value, this could flummox them a little bit. Give them too much value. Attorney at Maw. Is this She-Hulk's grandpa? 2 mana, 1/3 common. Choose one, silence a minion, or give a minion immune this turn. Okay, you know me, chat. You know me. I'm a huge fan of silence. I think silence is great. I think silence can be dominant in certain metas. This is an understated card that silences, which is already good. It would be good if it was just silence. But it also has the Death Speaker ability. Y'all remember Death Speaker? Give a minion immune this turn. The main limiting factor of Death Speaker was needing to get a minion on the board and having 3 mana to spend to get the effect off. This is even cheaper. You could play this on turn 6 with a Fishy Flyer, give it immune. This card is incredible. Norman says 5. Is this a 5? Is this a 5? I'm going to be a little bit conservative here. I want to say 4.5. I don't think it's quite a 5. It's not a game-breaking card. But it's one that's going to be a crucial pickup. This card, to be honest, kind of makes me want to play more Druid. I love the design of this card. It seems fun. And I'm a very aggressive tempo board focused player, so both silence and immune are clutch for my playstyle. I'm super into it. Okay, Druids cards. This is kind of like this, pretty much dead except for constructed. But Druid is looking good here. They got sort of a hard removal, which is important for Druid to have. They don't have a lot of cards like that. And this is going to be a highlight of the meta. It's common as well. Any cats in the new set? She's kind of giving cat girl energy. But who can say? Hunter. Defense Attorney Nathanos. Nathanos for you. 6 mana, 5/4 legendary. Battlecry, discover a friendly death rattle minion that died this game. Trigger and gain its death rattle. Imagine Mountain Bear metas with this. High main. Trigger and gain its death rattle. Is this good? I think it's good. Situational for arena decks, obviously. You need to pick up the death rattles first, probably. Or it needs to be a meta with a decent amount of death rattles, which this one hasn't been. They give all defense attorneys bow and arrows in this universe. Trigger and gain its death rattle. And it's a discover thing, it's not random, right? So, like, you might have a baddie guest or something that died, but if you had a better death rattle die, you don't have to limit yourself to that. I'm just trying to think, like, if you play this on curve, it'll have to be a pretty early death rattle that's died. I still think this is quite nice. But if you haven't had that, even if it's basically like a baddie guest, or the 2 mana 1/1 Kindly Grandmother, let's say Kindly Grandmother. That gives you a 3/2 alongside a 5/4, which already kind of justifies it. And you get another 3/2 in the death rattle. That's like a bad death rattle, and it's still pretty fine. I am going to call this a 3.5 because you have to have the right deck for it, but I think it's going to be strong in that deck. As a legendary should be, right? Situational and strong. Shadehound. Here's a cat for you, Tamo. 5 mana, 6/5 rare beast. Whenever this attacks, give your other beasts +2/+2. Infuse 3 beasts, gain rush. I find the parentheticals next to infuse to be kind of cumbersome and not that promising for arena. I don't know about y'all. But this is much more likely to get infused than the Demon Hunter one. Because there are sometimes just a crap ton of beasts in Hunter. Like, think about it. Just think about it. Wolpertinger, right? You play a Wolpertinger turn 1. This is in your hand. Already you're 2/3 of the way there. Like, there's a lot of beasts that, like, multiple are summoned. Pantry Spider, or that, like, Kindly Grandmother, they're stacked in there. Hearts of a Death Rattle or whatever. The problem is, you also have to have beasts on the board, so you need to just be awash in beasts. Like, I don't know if this card's that amazing. 5 mana, 6/5, good stat line. It's a fine stat line, not an amazing stat line. You think it's a 4? Is this card really that good? Like, let's say you get it infused, it just has rush. It's just a worse claw machine. But if you get this down on the board, you play like Swarm of Locusts next turn, then you probably win the game, but it's hard to stick stuff on board over multiple turns, you know? So the most like guaranteed way to use this would be to have 3 beasts die, infuse this, then on turn like 8 or 9, play this alongside 1 or 2 small beasts that also there's like more beasts in your hand that are cheap. I I actually don't think this is that great. I might go with Robopop here and say like 2 stars. Like, I actually don't think this is that great. It's so situational. Maybe it's 2.5 or even higher if you have the right deck for it. Let's call it 2.5. Let's say average and just wash our hands of it. We're gonna give it the Pontius Pilate treatment. Because I'm not impressed by this. I thought I was gonna be impressed by it because of the cool armor on the dog. Because it says infuse on it. But I think this is gonna be disappointing a lot of the time. Motion denied. 2 mana common spell. Secret. After your opponent plays 3 cards in a turn, deal 6 damage to the enemy hero. This isn't that good. But it can end games. Because there was another secret at some point that was triggered by the opponent playing 3 cards, right? Anyone remember the name of that one? And I remember that secret being really, like, not impressive. Because Rat Trap, yeah, Rat Trap. Like, people didn't really play Rat Trap. People would test for the other secrets, realize it was Rat Trap, and then just never play 3 cards. And, like, some classes, you don't ever really play a lot of cards at once, unless you're, like, Rogue. Now, maybe it's hard to keep from playing 3 cards during the whole game, but again, if you draw this in the late game, keep this in mind. If you draw this in the late game when 6 damage to the enemy hero would actually be useful, they might be running out of cards and never want to play 3 cards again. I'm gonna give this like a 1, I think. Unimpressive secret. You might take it sometimes, you might trick people with it sometimes. And I could see it winning games, but I don't think you generally want to be drafting it. Hunter looks fine. As far as the mini set goes. I don't think any of these are going to be changing the meta or anything. I'm a little bit disappointed that they're not slightly more interesting, but maybe I will change my tune on Shadehound. Objection. We're on to Mage now. 3 mana, rare secret. When your opponent plays a minion, counter it. So they finally printed Counterspell for minions. Well, Counterspell for minions is so much better than Counterspell. We learned that with Okani, right? That's the card I'm thinking of, Okani. The one that is like, choose whether to counter a secret or a minion. People just always chose minion for the most part. Because it's like, better. You know, people are going to be playing minions just about every turn. And if you were watching the last run I played before this, which I'll also upload to YouTube, it was a 12-1 rogue. If you were watching that, I was learning how to play with Kidnap a lot. Kidnap, slightly different than this, but is basically Rogue's version of counter a minion. This is 1 mana more, but it does get rid of the minion entirely rather than eventually put it back in their hand. So I think this is really strong. I'm gonna say 4. And it could end up being even better than that. It could end up being a terror. Oh, that's true. It counters the battle cry, which Kidnap doesn't do. That's a big difference too. So Kidnap, already a really good and strong card. Objection, much better than that. And it's in a class with historically, a lot of good secrets. So you're not really gonna know what to play around. Like, imagine not having a lot of health left in the late game and not being sure whether you want to play a small minion that might get explosive ruined or a big minion that might get objectioned. That's a tough spot. We're in a tough spot. So I'm almost tempted to give this a 4.5, but it is just a secret, so... You know, maybe the opponent has played Counterspell, and then you play Objection, and your counter gets countered by their counter. Think about it. Tempted to give 4.5 there. Life Sentence. Remove a minion from the game. 4 mana rare spell. Remove a minion from the game. Like, if Hearthstone was a physical card game, you'd just take their minion off the game board and light it on fire. Does this trigger D-Rattle? It's a good question. Destroy minion. It does not trigger D-Rattle. Because it says remove, right? It doesn't say... Well, what's the language on, like... What's the language on Assassinate? Destroy, right. It says remove, not destroy. I guess that's the difference. I should probably do that, huh? I'm learning how to make things aesthetically appealing halfway through. Okay, so, you know, these... Entomb, right? This is essentially better Entomb. In a lot of ways. That's a 6 mana card, right? Because Entomb was a removal with Silence. You just take it and stick it in the deck, right? This is 2 mana less. It's a removal with Silence. I'm gonna say 4.5 here. You can't return the minion with any resurrection effect. That's a good point too, Trash Queen. All this stuff about, like, bringing back death rattles later or whatever gets nullified. If the opponent's about to play a rally or something. I don't know. That's a bad example because it's small minions you're not going to want to remove, but... Entomb puts it in your deck, which I think is better. The cheaper as 4 mana is much better. Yeah, I don't... I think the Entomb putting it in your deck is pretty negligible most of the time. So maybe it's slightly better. But the 2 mana is huge. That's a huge difference. And this actually bums me out a little bit, because I'm tired of getting spanked by mages all the time. And I have been relieved to see Polymorph depart. I thought Polymorph was really oppressive. This is essentially Polymorph again. I don't know why they bothered to get rid of Polymorph if they were going to print Polymorph with different words on it, but I don't know, maybe that's just me. Like, they needed an excuse to be able to print this. So they got rid of Polymorph. I don't know. Contract Conjurer. 6 mana, 6/6 common minion. Costs 3 less for each secret you control. Ooh, I kind of like this. This is interesting. You know, it also could read 6 mana, 6/6. Play a free secret. Like, it's not exactly that, but it's similar. On the other hand, it is just a 6 mana 6/6 that doesn't do anything. So it's not amazing. It's not like a 4.5 or anything like that. But there are gonna be turns where you put a secret down that you know isn't gonna trigger, or probably isn't gonna trigger. And if it doesn't trigger, you get a 3 mana 6/6, which is huge. Like on turn 4 or whatever. And there are an increasing number of cards like this, like the 2/5 taunt that replicates itself, that are better if your secret doesn't proc. So it's gonna be like, it's secret supremacy, man. It's gonna be terrible. Like, people are gonna be playing so many secrets, and then it's gonna benefit you to not trigger them, and sometimes, though, it's gonna benefit you to trigger them because of stuff like this. It's hard to play around secrets. I'm gonna call this a... Because just remember before I rate this, how bad that 6 mana 6/6 is in Mage that copies itself as spell damage in a non-spell damage meta. That's a neutral card. Ring toss into free 6/6. Does it say each? Yeah, each. Holy moly, you're right about that, Karth. Ring toss into a free 6/6. That's a killer move. I'm gonna rate this a 3.5, I think. The combos are gonna be potentially game-winning, but if you don't hit the combos, it's, I would say, a bad card. Sketchy Strangers in the meta, easy to get 1 or 2 mana secrets. It's true. I think the power of this card is going to vary wildly based on what meta it's in. Pretty safe to say. Because there are some metas, it's more rare, but there are some metas where Mage Secrets kind of suck in general. I guess when this is around, this will always be around, so you'll have that at least. Yeah, Mage got good stuff. I hate how good Mage's stuff out-mages. Yeah, okay. We beat each other to it. Mage always good? I wish that weren't true. I wanted to see Mage get, like, less powerful. I'm tired of Mage. But these are, like, these are really strong. And you're not... The annoying thing is you're just not going to be able to do things against Mage. They're going to play secrets, you're going to do stuff, get dunked on by their secrets, get your stuff removed, they're going to polymorph your junk, remove it from the universe, destroy its very essence, eradicate its soul, play another secret, and then get a free 6/6. That's what Mage is going to do. Ugh. Paladin. Class Action Lawyer. 2 mana, 2/3. Rare. Battle Cry. If your deck has no neutral cards, set a minion stats to 1/1. So it's Subdue on a stick that will never proc. 1.5. A 2 mana 2/3 that doesn't do anything is a 1.5. We could probably just move on from this. No neutral cards. Not really a thing in Arena. Order in the court. Order in the court. 2 mana, rare. Reorder your deck from highest cost to lowest cost. Draw a card. Okay, so this is... This is, that one card. This is the one card, but without the body. You know the one. Polkelt. Polkelt's the one. This is Polkelt, but rather than, like, in the middle game, getting a nice body on the board to set up for drawing a bunch of big cards, it's just a spell in your deck. I think I like it a lot less. Like, it's cheaper, but it's not like you're gonna want to play it early. It's a card that you're gonna want to draw in the late game, and then but it's also, like, a waste of a card. Like, the turn that you play it, you're using it. Like, if you're top decking, you play this card, that means you don't do anything that turn, right? I don't like this. I don't think. You do get to draw a card. No, you do get to draw a card. That's true. I was kind of forgetting about that part, though. That makes it a lot better because at least it's a cycle. But I'm still not crazy about it. I'm gonna say 2 for now. The cycle probably makes it adequate. But it's still gonna be hard to figure out when exactly makes sense to play it. Gonna be just clogging up your hand sometimes. Maybe it's better than I think. But who cares what I think? Jury Duty, 3 mana common spell. Summon 2 Silverhand Recruits. Give your Silverhand Recruits +1/+1. More dude synergy? So this is Arbor Up, but for dudes. This is Zack Snyder's Arbor Up. So you're spending 3 mana to summon 2 2/2s. Which is good. That's like good stats. If you want, you can spend 5 mana to summon 3 2/2s. And if you have Day at the Fair, your whole board is 2 2s. Now, the problem is, you know, you could just get AoE'd or whatever, even in a best case scenario. But think about it in combination with stuff like Warhorse. It could definitely get out of hand. The recent buffs that Paladin got on dude synergies, like Promotion, Warhorse. You get some Balloon Merchant action going. I think this has its place in the archetype. A Fey Biggin, of course. You know, those becoming 4/2 Divine Shields alongside 2 extra bodies. That's pretty good. I think this is just a nice curve piece with some synergistic upside. I would rate it a 3.5 for that reason. A good chunk above average. So looking at Paladin, not a lot of impactful stuff. I think Paladin more or less comes out kind of looking the same as it did before. Paladin's in a good place right now, a lot of strong stuff. But I don't know that this is an amazing card. It could definitely work in some light aggressive decks. And this too works pretty well in aggressive decks. Paladin's okay. Go to Priest. Theft Accusation. 1 mana rare shadow spell. Choose a minion, destroy it after you play a card copied from the opponent. I like his boxers. Those are nice. MeUndies, I assume. That's a nice cup of water. Man. Looks like it's got some weight to it. I like a cup you can wrap your hand around, you know? I can't stay on target. Okay, is this... this seems trash. Very hit or miss. And you could say very hit or miss about just about every conditional spell or whatever. So it always becomes a question of, in the arena at least, how viable is it with... How viable is its condition in terms of frequency that you'll encounter it? And I would say with this one, not very. Like, Priest is a great card copied from the opponent. Like, Priest is a great card for stealing stuff. But I don't think any Priest archetype in recent memory has relied so much on copying cards from the opponent that it was, like, a given, you know? So, this 1 mana spell, it's great to remove something for 1 mana, but we already have the Light It Burns for that. I don't think you want to draft this, even if you get maybe like 3 spells or whatever, or minions that steal things from the opponent, I still don't think it's necessarily worth it. Like, imagine how bad staring at this card turn after turn is gonna feel. I think it's a 0.5. Mostly just gonna be there to clog up our drafts. Clear Conscience. 3 mana, common, holy, spell. Give a friendly minion +2/+3, and only you can prevent forest fires. Only you can target this with spells and hero powers. Okay, so you make something untargetable. Give it +2/+3. The 4 mana buff is +2/+6, right? This is 3 mana for +2/+3 buff. It's fine. It's health heavy, which you prefer when it comes to buffage. The big thing, honestly, is the untargetable. To be honest with you, honestly, not even going to front. Untargetable is huge for this. Because 9 times out of 10, when I'm playing Paladin, and I've got big booty buffs in my hand, Blessing of Kings, Blessing of Righteousness, whatever it is, 9 times out of 10, I am really anxious and careful about how I use those buffs because I'm worried about hard removal. So when I'm using like a Blessing of Kings, I'm almost always doing it to get like a good value trade-off, and occasionally I'll do it to Smork. But it's so dangerous using a buff to Smork because you're investing a lot of resources into one body that can get dunked on. This Clear Conscience, even though it's not a huge buff, you can put it on your biggest minion, and actually that minion will be safer than it was before, which is the opposite of how it usually is. So you can stick this on a huge minion and Smork with it, which really appeals to my playstyle. I like this a whole lot. It's not a huge buff, but I'm still going to call this 4. I think it's really valuable. Like, play a 6 or a 7 drop and then immediately put this on as well. Like, that's another thing that you rarely want to do. You don't typically want to buff something the turn you play it because it might get removed. But it'll feel a lot better doing that with this card. So it just opens up more lines of how you're gonna play buffs. Incriminating Physic. 4 mana, 2/6 common dragon, taunt, death rattle. Copy a random card from your opponent's hand. Okay, well there's the copy synergy. 4 mana, 2/6 taunt. Fine. We're essentially in Senjin Shield Master territory. Copy a random card from your opponent's hand. That's awesome. That's great. You're just like getting a free card, not really having to pay any extra mana for it. And it does have that dragon tag as well, which is most important in Priest generally. Is it a 4.5 as Stormwind suggests? Maybe. It doesn't really do anything with initiative, but it's really great for like delaying and prolonging a game. And with how this meta has been, you're often going to pick up like a Ysera or a Sire Denathrius or something, the big hitter. A Stoneborn General, you know, stuff that they've been saving. Deathborn. It's either a 4 or a 4.5 for me. I'm going to give it a 4 because it doesn't come with initiative. But I think it's quite strong and should be pretty fun to play. I'm looking forward to playing with it. I like Priest's cards. This one is basically useless, but these two are really fun and interesting. They add an interesting layer to what Priest can do, while not feeling like just rude like the Mage cards. Let's go to Rogue. Scribbling Stenographer, 6 mana, 4/4 rare, rush, costs 1 less for each card you played this turn. I mean, Rogue is the class for this sort of effect. We have a 6 mana, 4/4 rush, and we're not even sure how good that card is, and it has an extra death rattle that can win you the game sometimes. This is just 6 mana, 4/4. Like, what are you gonna do? Play 2/2 drops? Play this for 4 mana, 4/4 rush? I don't think I like this that much. It's just low impact, and it's not even always gonna... Like, you're gonna be so sad when you have to play this for full mana. So, this card is a low energy individual. Like, maybe if its stats were better. This is a surprisingly low power card for contemporary Hearthstone sets, actually. For it to be good, it has to get down to 3 mana. Yeah. I'm honestly gonna call this a 1. I'm not impressed by the Scribbler. Murder. Accusation. 2 mana, common, choose a minion, destroy it after another enemy minion dies. This is the much more interesting version of that priest one, right? So they have to have multiple enemies on board. You use this spell on the big one, and then, like, kill a 1/1 or something. I like this. Situational hard removal that has a huge impact for low tempo in situations where you're already going to be wanting to kill minions anyway a lot of the time. You'll run into scenarios where you can't really use it because they only have, like, 1 minion on board, of course. But it's fortunate that the minions that are easier to kill are the ones that are going to help you trigger this. And you could think about, like, Walk the Plank, right? That's a card that is also a situational hard removal. It's still really good, even though sometimes your opponent's gonna have damage on their minions. So I don't mind this being situational in the way that it is. It's a situation that occurs very frequently. I'm gonna call this a 4, I think. I'm impressed by this card. As if Rogue needed more ways to remove things. They got the 4 mana Assassinate. Rogue desperate for a crumb of AoE removal. I mean, this is not AoE removal, but it's more like it than than other hard removals. Okay, Perjury. It's Purging time. 2 mana, common secret. When your turn starts, discover and cast a secret from another class. This is like the secret version of that rogue card that makes your class appear to be a different class at the start of the game. So you play this, make the opponent play around potential rogue secrets in weird ways, and then you replace it with a different secret. This is fun to me. Is it good? I don't know. But it's just fun. This is a very good rogue card. It's on it's on brand, you know? On point. Like, of course it would be a rogue that puts a secret out, but the secret actually isn't a secret at all. Good when you don't want the secret to go off. It's... No, that's true, though. Like, if you want... In the sense of, if you have something in hand that's better if you've got a secret down, like the 4 mana 2/5 taunt, you'll still have a secret at the start of your turn, so you can do it. As far as the rating, discovering and casting a secret from another class, you know, you might be casting a mage secret, so you save a mana there, I guess. The downside of this is, like, if you actually need something to happen, nothing will happen. You know, like, if you're playing cards because you need to affect the opponent's board, you're gonna affect how they play, but not their board. So it's like a mind game over time. I like it. I think it's fun. It'll feel bad if you're dying. Let's call it 2.5? Let's call it a 2.5. We'll put it on average here. It's got its upsides, it's got its downsides. Looking forward to using it. So I'm, yeah, kind of puzzled about how underwhelming this is, but I guess the reason that this exists the way it does is to support the location, right? So draft more cards like we did in our rogue, the 3-mana 2/3 that gives you 1/1s. Dump a bunch of stuff on the board, you know, with the Foxy friend. Play this for relatively cheap, remove something, and then put a big stealth minion on the board. Kind of makes sense. But generally won't be that good. Then again, the location's a lot better than I thought it would be. This, I think, is going to be very good, and this is fun. So I like the rogue lineup here. Shaman. Framester. 3-mana, 3/3 rare. That's a common stat line in Shaman for some reason in particular. Battlecry, shuffle 3 framed cards into the opponent's deck. When drawn, you have to figure out what movie they're from. Oh, that sounds like it'd be good for me. I'm gonna be #1 arena leaderboard. Play only Shaman. So this is like those shuffle junk into your opponent's deck and like it'll do damage to them, or shuffle junk into your deck and it'll summon stuff. But it's like that, but for mana. Which is cool. I just think that most of the time they're gonna have 10 mana when they draw these. Like, maybe you'll get lucky someday. Turn 8, they draw 2 framed cards, and all of a sudden they only have 4 mana and can't do anything. That could happen. You could definitely high roll this. But I don't think it will be that impactful. That being said, this is a 3-mana 3/3. That's fine. I kind of think it's below average, actually. But I would love to be wrong. I would love for the overloads to really feel debilitating. I just think by the time they're being drawn, your opponent's not. What are they gonna do? 1 less hero power? I don't know. Color me unimpressed. I think the overload part affects their next turn. Not sure on the turn it's drawn. Oh. Well, but it says when drawn. So you're saying maybe it's 2 turns? Well, you know what? I would bump it up to 2.5 maybe if it's over 2 turns. That actually is more significant. But when you overload, I'm getting tangled up here. Does anyone want to explain to me how this card works? Because when you overload, you're not losing mana that turn. So is it only for the next turn? They're not overloaded for 2 turns. So it's not the turn they draw it, but the next turn. So they can plan ahead. That makes it worse then. I'll stick it at 2 still. Not only can they plan ahead more, but they'll have 1 more mana to work with. Yeah, okay. The locked crystals go into effect the following turn. Yeah, that makes this card worse, actually. Because, like, if you play this on 3 and then on turn 4 they draw a frame card and immediately only have 2 mana, that's kind of great. But if they still have 4 mana and then next turn they'll have 3, they could play around that a little bit. Yeah. Torghast Custodian. 8 mana, 6/10 rare. Battlecry. For each enemy minion, randomly gain Rush, Divine Shield, or Wind Fury. For each enemy minion, randomly gain Rush, Divine Shield, or Wind Fury. So, this is like Chungus Ivus? I like, not that Ivus isn't a Chungus, but this has to be a Chungus. So let's assume the opponent has 3. I think this is very good, right? Let's assume the opponent has 3 minions. You get all 3. 8 mana, 6/10. Kills a big minion, and then value trades with a smaller one. And you still have a huge minion on board. I also kind of like the art on this. This is cool. It's like a big fist automaton that sweeps up. If they only have 1, I don't know. It's still... The worst would be if you only get Wind Fury, right? And you're still playing an 8 mana 6/10, which isn't an amazing stat line these days, but is, like, functional. Goldcrests, thank you for the follow. Welcome to the fun dungeon. You've already brought so much insight into the dungeon. Alec here from the Maw. At least no taunt or lifesteal with so much health, but damn. Yeah, I'm actually surprised that they didn't design this in a way that has more tags. Like, if you play it into a board with 5 minions or something. I'm gonna say this, you know, it's not often that you see big stat-based minions with impact. This is an interesting one. Because usually the big minions they print now have some sort of, like, board affecting effect. But this affects itself. I think this is gonna be functionally like a mini AoE sometimes. Pretty devastating. And I don't see a ton of scenarios where you can't get it to work. A lot of opponents' cards spread, right? Let's call it a 4. Maybe even better. But at the end of the day, it is still like a big card. It's expensive. And there's a small RNG element. It could be a 4.5. 4 or 4.5. I'm waffling. I'm on the fence. Yeah, and then if the opponent can't kill it, it's a ton of face damage. I'm tempted to stick it up at 4.5. I think this is going to be impactful. Totemic Evidence. 1 mana, common spell. Choose a basic totem and summon it. Infuse 3 totems, summon all 4 instead. So, help me out here. When it says choose a basic totem and summon it, that's going to be out of all 4, right? I know that the language suggests that, and it should be obvious, but sometimes Hearthstone is like, choose a card from your hand, but it only gives you 3. I would assume 3. But other cards that do this with totems give you all 4 options. I would have assumed 4. This is why I think they write their cards better. Because sometimes they assume the discover effect. They assume that you'll assume that you get 3. But in this case, I'm assuming that you get 4. But there's no way for people to know. No, but yeah, but I'm not talking about the infused. I'm talking about this effect. Like, you'll get to choose from 3 or from 4. I would assume it would say discover a totem if it was 3. Yeah, but some cards say choose a card from your hand, but it doesn't mean choose a card from your hand. It means choose from one of 3. When I rated it, I'll assume it's all 4. You know, you're toteming for 1 mana and you get to choose what it is. Sometimes that's really important. Sometimes you need... What card says choose? Theotar. Mad Duke? Right? Sometimes you need Taunt Totem. Sometimes a Strength Totem or even a Healing Totem can really help you out. Theotar says discover. There was one that says choose from the recent set. Yeah, I thought it was Theotar. I guess it's a different one. But, you know, let's say... But here's the thing about this card. Summon all 4 totems is strong for 1 mana. That's a good ability. But you have to infuse 3 totems. You're not toteming, like, every turn. So, like, it's gonna be a long time before you get this infused. And I don't know that 4 totems is as good as it is. I don't know if it's impactful enough to justify holding a useless card in your hand for that long. Because, like, on curve, you're not going to be toteming a lot. Later on, you will, but it's still going to take 3 turns or so. One mana totem isn't terrible, but it's not something I'd be interested in drafting unless other cards are fairly weak. I agree with that. This is a card you pick up if the other cards stink. Might take for a spell burst, spell synergy. True, true. I want to call this a 1. It has application, and it might have impact. It just takes way too much setup for what it gives you. Shaman's cards are really interesting too. I like the design on these. This is the one that's gonna be changing things for people in the arena. The other two, not really so much. But I'll appreciate every once in a blue moon picking up a Framester or a Totemic Evidence. This is literally a late game card if you want to infuse. You don't totem 3 times early. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, you're not gonna be toteming on curve, right? So, best case scenario, you draw this in the late game when you're toteming every turn. You still have to wait 3 turns. And then you get 4 totems in the late game? I don't know. Maybe you even need that board space for something else. Moving on to Warlock. Habeas Corpses. Three mana shadow spell, rare. Discover a friendly minion to resurrect and give it rush. It dies at the end of the turn. So in a way, you are... I don't know about this card. Because here's what this reads as. You're summoning a minion that has died already, but that won't last through the turn. It's essentially going to be a removal, right? Most of the time. Bibliomite, Demon Hunter minion, 2 mana, 5/4 Battlecry. Choose a card in your hand to shuffle into your deck. There it is, CJ. That's the card that says choose from your hand, but that only gives you 3 options. That's the one. This one is crazy. You can resurrect some very high damage minions or death rattles, but you could also whiff horribly if lots of small dudes died. You think it's crazy? It's crazy in the sense that it will make you crazy when you are given a 1 drop and 2 2 drops to pick from. 3 mana, deal 2 damage. Like, that's a real low roll, but is this better than Razorgill on average? That's actually a really good question. Because Razorgill is 1 mana less, 3 damage guaranteed, and consistency. You know what you're gonna get. This is 1 mana more. You have to have had the right minions die. And it could dramatically high roll with Death Rattles, right? If we get into a Death Rattle meta, it could be really nice. But even if you've had Death Rattle minions die, you might not get them in the Discover. So you've spent 1 mana more than a Razor Gill to roll the dice and hope that you get enough to do what you need to do on the board. Reborn also, Death Rattle, Reborn, these are... If you get like, if you've had a Thresher die, right? If you've had a Thresher die, you could get a Rush Cleave situation. There's stuff that you can do with this. You know, maybe there's tagged synergies. You bring a tagged minion back and can do something with it. I don't know. I assume you can silence it to stop the effect. Probably, right? Probably. Like that Volcanomancy card or whatever. So silence is another synergy you could bring in. So this is a card that has inconsistency built into it, which makes me estimate it lower, but that has a lot of potential synergies that could be fun to play around with. I'm going to call it 2.5 for now. And think of it as a hard removal with a million asterisks next to it. Arson accusation. Surely better than 2.5 though. I would say Razor Jaw is about a 2.5, and if I'm not certain whether it's going to be better or worse than a Razor Jaw, I stick it at 2.5. Is it surely better than 2.5? Like you said yourself, you think of the high roll first, but I don't. I don't think of the high roll first when I am evaluating these cards. I think of the median, I guess, if anything. Dreaming of that sweet value. I'm not a believer like you, I guess. My heart is crusted, sapped of nutrients, dusty. I be talking about my dusty heart. 2 mana, common, fire spell. Choose a minion, destroy it after your hero takes damage. Well, you just tap. So 4 mana hard removal. It's fine. Yeah, it's good. And now every class has 2, 3 hard removals. They all cost 4 mana. Everyone's happy. Nobody will ever be able to stick a minion on the board again. We'll just be staring at empty boards, trying to hero power each other to death. Or stars. You didn't see her face, so you're not a believer. You spelled believe. You typoed believer like it was from a Tolkien book. I was a believer once in the third age. This set gives too much removal. The mage cards are infuriating. Yeah, we did mage. I'm not particularly happy about them either, the awesome. I think the mage cards are really powerful and extremely annoying. Yeah, they're really piling on the hard removal. I wonder why. Don't even get me started on the Rings of Power now. Now is not the time. Imp Oster. 3 mana 1/1 common demon. Battlecry, choose a friendly imp, transform into a copy of it. okay constructed cards. How you doing, Cosmic? Worst case, it's 4 mana. Best case, it's 2 mana. Yeah. You know, you got a Flame Imp in hand. Spend 3 mana, get the removal. Could be Ring Matron. Ring Matron of Power. You don't draft this, right? Unless you happen to have picked up a bunch of Ring Matrons or whatever. Is Ring Matron an imp? I thought it was a demon. Does it spit out demon? I can't even keep the tags straight. This is a 0, right? You just don't draft this card. It's not like a thing in Arena. Like, I would kind of hope that they don't even offer it in the draft. I hate these cards that are clearly constructed cards, but that clog up the drafts. It's both? Oh, right, it's both. Because imp is not like a tag per se. Okay. Warlock's got some pretty good stuff here. Just in the removal territory. I don't know that that's what they needed, but what they're getting. Today's been the best day of the year. It's like super Christmas. What's going on, Cosmic? What's got you so jolly? Weapons Expert. 3 mana, 3/2, rare. Battlecry. If you have a weapon equipped, give it +1/+1. Otherwise, draw a weapon. Oh. What do you think about that dagger? Draw a weapon is a nice effect. Even for an understated 3 mana, 3/2. Give a weapon +1/+1. Not an amazing effect. Probably worth it for the stats. But think of Gorehowl, right? Like, this card works really well in Warrior specifically, I think. I'm gonna call it a 3, because it's conditional and understated. But I like the card. I think it's well designed. See, like, this is a balanced card. It takes a big hit on the stats, but, you know, what it does makes it worth it. I like the design on that. Okay, what are you? Call to the Stand. Got a JoJo reference here. 1 mana common spell. Your opponent summons a random minion from there. Okay. Do we what? How do we think anyone is gonna play this in Arena? Tons of fresh game content. You going to TwitchCon? Hell yeah! Super Christmas. Have a good time, Cosmic. Wand Maker will love this. It's just not a. Again, this is a card that I hope they don't include in drafts. It's just gonna make people angry because they'll be forced to take a Senjin Shield Master rather than Call to the Stand. Dirty Rat. I admit to trying to make Dirty Rat work on occasion. Miss that guy. Maw-Sworn Bailiff. 5 mana, 4/4 common card. Taunt Battlecry. If you have 4 or more armor, gain +4/+4. So this is worse Ironclad then. The thing that makes Ironclad okay, or even good sometimes, is that you only need any amount of armor at all. So you can just armor and then do it. This being 4 or more armor is a huge difference. It's a huge difference because that's 2 turns of hero powers. You can't control it anymore. If you need some armor, you can control it. You do a hero power, you play the card. If you need 4 or more armor, fate decides. Maybe some games, you've been armoring all game, you have 10 armor, fine. But if you got 0 armor, how are you going to get to 4? You need some other combo card, and that makes this way worse than the Ironclad, in my opinion. I honestly, it's 5 mana 4/4 or a 5 mana 8/8. 5 mana 8/8 is great, but like, How often are you gonna get it off? And you can't play a 5-mana 4/4 in this economy. I'm gonna call this a 1. I think it's trash. It's trash along the same lines as that 6-mana 4/4 in Warlock. Or Rogue, rather. Some expansions do offer cards that could give armor. Right, that's why I said you need to combo it with another card. Making reference to the cards that you can combo it with. But you still have to draft those cards and draw them, which makes it so... Again, you're thinking about the high rolls, but I'm thinking about the median. It's gonna only be such a small margin of situations where you pull this off nicely. I think it's a 1. Warrior looking shabby, as usual. They really don't like to design good cards for Warrior, do they? They shot their wad with Troublemaker. They were like, never again. Super Collider. Every once in a while, they get a good one. On to the neutrals. We're in the home stretch. Okay, this is the one that everyone's been whinging about, so let's see what it is. Sylvanas the Accused. 6 mana 5/5. Battlecry as a legendary. Battlecry, destroy an enemy minion. Infuse 7. Take control of it instead. Okay. Alright. Yeah, alright. Okay. Yeah, alright. We'll call that a 5. First 5 of the set. I don't hate this. Like, it's insane. But as far as the insane cards that they print as legendary, first of all, it's a legendary. Right? Second of all, it's a 6 mana 5/5. It's understated. Third of all, Infuse 7, that's a lot. You can wait, though, most of the time. I think this is an incredibly good card. Yeah, and you're essentially doing mind control on a stick now. They got rid of mind control so that they could make an even more toxic card. But, like, they've printed cards for Priest that are, like, cheap mind controls now, you know? But yeah, I agree. 6 mana 5/5 with an Assassinate attached. Extremely strong. This will probably be one of the better legendaries out there. I don't necessarily think we'll be feeling about it the way we feel about Raid Boss Onyxia, where, like, you see it and you're like, okay, why was I even playing? This feels a little bit more balanced than that to me, but still definitely a 5 out of 5. It's good on 6, and it's super good and fused on turn 6. It's a 2 or 155 for 6. If it's infused, then it's a 3 for 1. I have no idea what you're talking about, Cosmic. Is this a Gertrude Stein poem? Gertrude Stein plays Hearthstone. There is any day not what they say. There is a man there, and it is well done. If he likes it or not, it is well done. That is how he knows that it is well done. No, please don't apologize. You brought me great joy. Shout out to Gertrude Stein. How are you gonna infuse 7 on turn 6? You can do it. You can do it. Yeah, have it on your hand. You get it in the mulligan, and then curve out splendidly. It's hardly ever gonna happen, but you can do it. Like, think about if you're a druid and you play maybe a 1-drop, maybe Maze Guide on 2. That's 2 bodies. You've played 3 bodies already. And then on turn 3, you play Bees. That's 4 bodies. That's 7. You could get this infused by turn 4. You'd have to mull it instead of curving out. I think it's going to be a matter of some debate whether you're supposed to mulligan this card or not. I think a lot of times you're going to want to keep this in the mulligan. But yeah, like, think about something like Bees or like Coordinated Strike. Will there be an arena reset tomorrow? Yes, the meta changes tomorrow. It hasn't been confirmed that the sets are rotating, but we think they probably will. What sets will come out? The previous comment. You have to keep it instead of curving out. I see what you mean. Yeah, you know, it's a... So they'll boot me out of my current runs without warning? It wouldn't be the first time, Dawesome. Well, they've given warning that the Miniset is happening. But there have been times where they haven't even changed the Miniset, or the road. They haven't even... there have been times where they've booted people from their runs without even that much warning, so... Anyway. I'm glad I'm here to tell you, finish your runs, chat, or get them to 2 losses or whatever if you want the gold. Anyway. 5 blobs. This was kind of fun, not gonna lie. It's gonna feel real bad to lose against, though. The Jailer. Ooh. The Jailer. Ooh. 10 mana, 10/10 legendary? Battlecry, destroy your deck. For the rest of the game, your minions are immune. Wait. When it says your minions are immune, does that mean during your turn, or that they cannot die? Like, is it impossible to remove this 10/10? They're immortal. Like Raid Boss. Confirm a Twisting Nethered on the... What's going on in the chat today? She's very strong, not infused. It's a 6 mana 2 for 1. When she's infused, it's 6 mana mind control plus a body, 3 for 1. Yeah, very true. And yeah, Cosmic's talking about the Sylvanas, very true. A 3 for 1, essentially. You can play Sylvanas, take the Jailer. I could not even begin to tell you how to rate this card. It's gotta be good, right? I'm gonna call it a 4 and not think about it anymore. 4.5? Like, I mean, if you're dying, maybe it's too slow. But otherwise, if you're not about to die, it's pretty much a guaranteed win. We'll see how it goes. Interesting design. I like how ominous it is. Tight-lipped witness. 3 mana, 2/5 epic. Secrets can't be revealed. Okay, I did hear about this card. I like this. Do you have an immune taunt? Can they just not do anything? Like, you can do non-targeted removal, like Twisting Nether, which Stormwind mentioned. That will do something. Or you can shoot past the taunt, but I guess otherwise... You just... Yeah, you could put taunts up and wait for them to fatigue themselves to death. Anyway, I'm a fan of this card. If they're gonna pump secrets and secret synergies into the meta like they have been, I'm glad that we're getting a tech card. I like that this isn't just another destroy a secret card. I like that it's like freeze the secrets essentially. So like if there's a maneuver that you really wanted to do but can't do, especially in secret standoffs in the late game, like if you got a big board but they have Flame Ward and they're just like not playing stuff and waiting for you to trigger it, put down the Tight-lipped witness, send it all face, and you've possibly just won. I like this card a lot. That line, I'm gonna call it a 3. You're not always going to be facing secrets, and the stat line is not good. But I feel like I'm going to be drafting this a decent amount. I think it's cool. Prevent your own secrets from triggering? Also true, though. And maybe the opponent will think that they've checked for your secrets, but they actually haven't. That could be helpful. Secret stuff's getting complicated, man. Just take me out behind the shed and shoot me. Rather than having to think about, like, oh, if I proc this, it could be this, or it could also be the one that's pretending to be the other one, and maybe if they have the one that they put on the board, but maybe they want me to proc it so that they can, you know, it's just, oh my god. Afterlife Attendant, 3 mana, 3/4 rare card. Your infused cards also infuse while in your deck. I assume as long as this is alive on the board, right? That's pretty cool. I mean, it's 3 mana, 3/4, good stats. Nice 3-drop. The downside is, like, probably not a ton of minions are gonna die while this is on the board if you're playing it on curve. Maybe, like, a 2-drop will. If you play it in the late game, you might get a bunch of stuff to die. So I don't think this is necessarily going to be hugely impactful, but I'm imagining drawing infused cards with a couple of ticks already on them, and it feels pretty good. I'm gonna say like a regular 3 mana 3/4 would be average, or slightly below. I'm gonna call this a 3. I like it. Cool design. Soul Seeker. Looks like he's about to get his soul seeked. Mortal Kombat 2021. 5 mana 3/3 common card. Battlecry, swap this with a random minion from your opponent's deck. Not good. Right? Not good. I don't draft cards like this for Arena, because with Arena, you only get 3 losses. You're trying to get 12 wins. You need consistency, right? Consistency with the promise of high roll, in some cases. This is essentially saying, I want to get a card that's 5 mana's worth from their deck. But most cards you draft in Arena are not 5 mana's worth. Yeah, I agree. This is a 0.5 for me. Way too risky. And, like, even a lot of big cards, 5 mana or more, are good because of their battle cries, right? So, you pull a big card, but it's a battle cry card, it's not even worth it. Not interested. Sure. There's always going to be high roll cases, though, and your opponent's going to play this against you and pull your Stoneborn General from your deck. You know, it's going to happen, but you know, the potato's got to win too somehow, sometimes, some way. That's it, chat. As far as the neutrals go, I'm really thrilled about the design on this card and the design on this card. Neither of them are particularly powerful, but they add interesting wrinkles to where the meta is at right now. These legendaries seem busted and obnoxious. So I guess I'm not particularly looking forward to seeing them. It's an okay mini set. A lot of dead cards in the mini set. Dead card. Possibly dead card. Dead card. Like, pretty much every class has, except Mage, which pretty much every class has some sort of dead card. This is like a nothing card. This is nothing. This is nothing. This is kind of nothing. This is dead as heck. This is dead as heck, you know? Dead card. You could just have an immune taunt, yeah. There are more cards which I dislike than I like, so I'm worried. Is that true for me? Maybe. Maybe it's true. There's a lot of cards that I hope they don't include in the draft pool, because I think drafts are going to get annoying if you have to pick around, like, Call to the Stand, right? I don't think you can have immune and taunt at the same time. Well, why not? If it makes all your minions immune, why would a taunt minion not be immune? But there are some cards in here that I really enjoy. What? Call to the Stand? Yeah, no, it's a dead card. These I think are really neat. Habeas Corpus is pretty interesting. I like Perjury, that seems fun. Torghast could be a fun gamble sometimes. The Clear Conscious is a good design. I think this will be fun to take cards away. This is a slightly interesting way to do dude synergies. I don't even like look at these. I'm just so strong. I'm not particularly compelled by anything in the set though, you're right. It's just some stuff that like this is one of the better cards to me. I'm gonna look forward to playing with that for sure. And that's it. Hope you enjoyed the mini set review. I'll you know, be playing with them new metas this week. Immune absolutely disables taunt. Okay. I guess that's just probably a wise failsafe they programmed in a while ago, huh? Mage cards are toxic. Immune is like permanent stealth and divine shield. Okay, that makes a little more conceptual sense of it. Texting on a phone without hands is ineffective. True. True enough. All right, that's the end of the miniset review. Goodbye. That's for YouTube.